Hello, it's Colleen from Raising Lifelong Learners. And some of you know me. You've seen me speak at conventions, or we've gotten to know each other online a little bit. But we're going to have some weekly chats here. So I'm going to give it a minute or two, let some people join in. Hi, Melissa. I see Melissa Powell's joined. If you pop in to the live, just leave a comment, say hi. I'll try to keep up with comments as we go, but it makes me look down and then I'm not looking at the camera, so I'm going to try to do my best. Yes, I'm glad that you can make it too. We'll see how these do, right? We'll see how many people we get in. Feel free, if you know friends or family that would be interested in chatting about gifted or hearing about giftedness and intensity, that you share the video out. Anybody who joins us, we have a couple people. But for those of you who are joining us and don't know, I'm Colleen Kessler, and I run this page. So Raising Lifelong Learners is my site and my baby. It is a place where I share things that are going on, interesting parenting articles or gifted articles, activities for kids to do, science, resources, and more importantly, just give support to moms and dads kind of in the trenches with me. Homeschooling and parenting gifted kids. So I've been asked a lot of similar questions kind of recurring, and I thought that it would be fun since not everybody can get to see me when I go to speak. I usually speak at the Great Homeschool Conventions. I'll be there in 2018 again at all 5 of their events. I'm speaking the first weekend of October in Arizona with the Arizona Family Home Educators group. I'll be speaking at their Special Needs and Gifted conference. And but I know a lot of people can't get out. And so I figured once a week, I'll try to tackle a topic related to giftedness and intensity and give you my take on it, share some resources with you. I have a friend, Jennifer Vale. She's in here watching. Jen, you can wave and say hi. She's going to help me out, and she'll help answer some questions and drop some links if I miss comments or draw my attention to some that I miss. But I really, really want to make these weekly chats for you. I want them to be the best that they can be and the most helpful for you. We've got lots of parents that come to the page and look for resources to help them be better parents or solve problems that they're having with their kids. We also have a lot of parents who are in the Facebook group that my friend Kate and I co-moderate, Raising Poppies. And the same kinds of questions come up again and again about parenting, homeschooling, advocating within the school systems, doing what needs to be done to help raise your gifted kids or your really intense kids, twice exceptional kids, kids with sensory processing issues, anxiety and other things. Help to raise them as best as possible and find the resources that they need to be successful, but also the resources that you need as a parent to navigate those waters. So I have some ideas for some different topics, and I can't wait to share them with you. But I know that you have some things too. You've got some things that, have been in your heart and in your mind, and things you're looking for resources for to help you with. And so I would love if we could use this time to chat about that, and you could drop some questions in the comments. I can answer some. We can kind of use this as today's video as a Q&A. And I can answer some of your questions if they're quick. And then the ones that take a little bit longer or need some research or some resources, then I can make a note of them and devote a whole entire Facebook Live to those topics. So for example, next week, I would love to talk to you guys about motivation. I know sometimes it's really a challenge to, and I don't know if you heard that. I'm trying to, sorry, my text is open on my computer and I thought I closed it and I keep hearing dings. Oh, it won't close, so it's distracting me. Hopefully I won't be distracted like this next time. My daughter is in a play. Here's a funny story. Okay, my daughter's in a play, and she is on a text thread with the rest of the little girls in the cast, and they range from age like 10 to 13. And so She doesn't have her own phone that's capable of texting, so she's using my number, like a couple other girls are using their mom's numbers. So I keep getting these texts, and then I hand my phone over to her. But I forgot to mute it on my computer, so it's coming through my computer. Anyway, I want to, next week we're going to talk about motivation. Does anybody out there have a really bright kid who's just not super motivated to learn, or gives you fits and arguments when you're trying to get through the homeschool day? We're going to talk about that next week. I wrote a post. It's live on my site today, all about that, and with some strategies for helping undermotivated and reluctant learners. It's part of a blog hop that's going on right now with the Gifted Homeschoolers Forum. So you can check out a lot of posts about that. But we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to tackle some questions that that parents have related to that topic next week. So at 3 o'clock next week, we're going to do motivation. We're going to talk about motivation and reluctancy in learning. So make sure you send me any questions that you have about that, and you can drop them in here, or you can private message me through the Facebook page. Yes, Erin, that is how, and I think that you've got a slightly older one too. My oldest is like that right now. He is really, really struggling to get things done. And he fights me with everything, no matter how minimally I ask him to work that day. So we're battling that too. It's not something I have like a magic silver bullet to help you solve, but I do have some strategies. So we're going to talk about those next week. So I have that topic, motivation. We can talk about motivation. Thank you. We can talk about motivation. We can talk about anxiety. I know some of you guys have kids that struggle with anxiety. I have, hi Samantha. I have a kid who has sensory processing issues. We've got some twice exceptional needs here. I really need to talk a little bit about overexcitabilities because I get questions about that all the time. Testing, yes, Christina, that's a really good one. I've got a couple posts on my site, but that's a really good topic for a live, because there are a lot of things that fall into that. So we're going to make a note of that one. So yeah, mark your calendars, 3 o'clock on Monday afternoons, 3 o'clock Eastern time. I'm going to be here, and we're going to tackle some of those questions specifically, so you just have my ear and I can ask you questions. Hi, Samantha. And then Melissa, that's a good question. The whole, is it a kid thing? Is it a gifted thing? I think it's a kid thing to a degree, especially as they get into like puberty and adolescence. When they're kind of like trying to figure out who they are and exert them, their own independence. But I think that oftentimes it's like a lot of things with gifted, it's like amplified, because they really, really have that tendency to be their own people and figure out what it is that motivates them and be like earlier on, and they can be really reluctant and dig their heels in. Where, they just don't want to be pushed forward. If it's something that you're asking them to do, forget about it. Yet they could be doing the same thing like a week before, but it's on their terms, so they're doing it. I think that tends to be amplified with giftedness, but it definitely does happen with, all kids. Yeah, that would be good. The SPD and gifted. So I know that there's often that struggle trying to figure out what is sensory processing, what is overexcitabilities. And I know I struggle with that too. So that would be a really great live to do. So that's a good one too. So we've got motivation next week. We've got anxiety as a topic. We've got testing as a topic. Great one, Christina, Melissa, SPD, overexcitabilities. So fun. Any questions you have for me right now? Like, are you battling something with your kiddo and want me to tackle something? Throw that in there and I'll tackle it. I've got a little bit of time here. Like I said in the beginning before people came on, I only have a short amount of time today. We have a house guest, my friend Ashley. If you guys have ever seen the site Pichet Place, ashleypichet.com, Pichea. Ashley's daughter is spending the week with us, and so she's upstairs and the kids are doing all sorts of activities. So I don't want to take a whole bunch of time away from our house guest and the kids. We're playing board games and stuff this afternoon. But I wanted to get in here and I wanted to let you know that we're going to be here every Monday at 3 p.m. Okay, so Samantha, you want to know about neuropsych testing too. So we're going to make sure that we write that down and we do a live on it. Melissa. Yes. Okay, so Melissa asked, do you find that gifted kids shut down when they can't do something automatically because other things come so easily? Yes, it's going to definitely fit in with next week's talk, like you said. But I was just having this conversation with my oldest this morning. I was giving him an example of when I was a kid. Everything came easy to me. Pretty much anything I tackled, I did well and got it really quickly, whether it was an academic thing or a social thing or an athletic thing or an arts thing, whatever I did, I got really quickly. And then I hit my sophomore year. And this is so ironic if you know anything about me now, but we had to do a speech in my honors 10th grade English class. And it was something really silly. Like we didn't even have to create the speech ourselves. We just had to recite, I think it was like the preamble of the Constitution or the Gettysburg Address or something like that. And I knew it. I memorized it. I knew it down like cold. But I was so paralyzed with the idea of getting up in front of my classmates and maybe missing a word or maybe putting my inflection in the wrong place that I ditched school that day. So it was my day to present and I ditched. Because I was such a good student and because I never ditched classes and because anything I did came easily for me, my teacher was worried because she didn't ever think that I would miss something on purpose. So she called my home to ask how I was feeling and to see if I was going to be able to do it tomorrow or, the following day, or if I needed a little bit extra time to get over, my sickness before I went up in front of the class. And of course, I was found out and I still had to do the recitation. But I was given a 0 instead of the A that I had earned on my recitation. And it tanked my grade for that quarter because it was a really big project. And I was not able to get the A that I had earned on all the other projects. I ended up with a B in that class, which, in retrospect, like it's a B, not a big deal, but it was devastating to me then. It was completely and totally because I was afraid that I was not going to be able to be as perfect as I knew I should be. And so my son and I were talking about that because he's struggling right now. The work's gotten a lot harder. He's a 9th grader now. And so we have followed a really loose, interest-based approach to learning for years. And now he's being asked to write out some of his thoughts because I need to focus on the younger children. And he needs to focus on getting his thoughts down so he can take notes easily. And he's shutting down. He's staring at a wall. He's doodling on paper. He's putting YouTube up behind the definitions he's searching online. And he's doing everything but the work. And it's holding him back. And it's making him have to work for longer and harder throughout the day. And it's getting him to complain and try to get out of the work. And it's really all because it's now a little bit more challenging than it was last year or the year before. I think that plays a big part. And that, it pulls in perfectionism issues. It pulls in that fear of failure, that imposter syndrome. Like, what if they find out I'm really not as smart as they think I am, kind of thing. I know that that's what he's struggling with right now. And, maybe this is all a facade and they're going to find me out. And so that really, really shuts kids down. That's huge. So that will play in next week, but that is something that you do have to be aware of with gifted kids. And then ironically, that whole story I just gave you about me struggling with speaking in front of my class was something that I didn't even create. And here I am speaking now. And I love to speak. I love to talk to parents, but I'm still pretty introverted. Like if you get me one-on-one, it takes me a while to talk about myself or even my kids. And I'll kind of sit back if we're in a group with other homeschoolers or friends until I'm brought into the conversation because I'm still kind of afraid I'm going to say something wrong. But I can get up and I can talk about gifted kids. I can talk to you about your kids all day long. I can offer all sorts of suggestions because I'm passionate about that. It's interesting. The way that the gifted brain works can sometimes, sabotage the gifted person. So it's hard. Yes, SPD helps. So we'll definitely do that. And oh my gosh, Carol, teenagers, gifted teens, this is a whole new enigma for me. So for those of you who are just joining us, I have a 14-year-old. He'll be 15 in November. And I think I just like, based on my own personal experiences and now some of the stuff that I've read recently, the gifted brain on puberty is tough, really tough. Like puberty is hard anyway. And I always say that parenting gifted kids is like parenting on steroids. And you get that, like it's puberty on steroids. And so it's really like the sensory stuff, the anxiety stuff, the fear of failure stuff. It's all really, really amplified right now, as far as as far as my teen goes. So we definitely need to tackle that in so much in some at some point. Perfectionism. Do you have a perfectionist, Melissa? How do you pronounce it? Get it? Is it Geddes? Is the T silent? Because I have two Melissas out here. Perfectionism is so hard. I have one post on my site about perfectionism and some of the strategies you can use to help your kids through it. But I definitely should write some more about that. Hi, Christy. Encouraging passion. That's a challenge. There's a post on my site right now that just went live today. The link is a little bit higher in the comments, Christy, where I was talking about motivation. And I listed just a couple ideas for finding some passions because I know that that's a challenge. Like I'll ask my oldest, what are you interested in? And sometimes he's like, I don't know. What should I be interested in? And so some of the suggestions that I included in that post and some people have included with or introduced me to are things like just walking the library shelves. And I know that you're good at that, but walking the library shelves, finding things that that may spark an interest, finding things that are new, might be new to your kiddo, asking your neighbors and your friends and people in your circle what they're interested in to see if it's something that might interest yours. Museums, botanical gardens, and then diving down the rabbit trails on some of those topics that you find there. Finding passions, I think, is one of those tricky things. We need to do it, but it's not just natural. Like you need to throw a whole bunch of things at them and just kind of see what sticks. Throwing the spaghetti to the wall and seeing the one noodle that sticks. Strewing is good for that, like putting lots of different things out to see what kind of sparks them, and then going and getting documentaries about it or books about it or games about it, about that topic. That's a tricky one and something that I would totally welcome other brainstormed ideas, but those were some of the ones off the top of my head. Asking friends and family for things they're interested in to see if it's something that would spark your kiddo's interest. Library, museums, movies even. So my oldest is doing a Greek mythology course right now that we got from schoolhouseteachers.com. We subscribed to it for the year. It's like $10 a month, and you can download as many courses as you want. And I can drop an affiliate link in for that later. You're welcome to just go to schoolhouseteachers.com. I do have an affiliate link because I really like their courses, and then we'll earn 10% back on it. But he downloaded a high school Greek mythology class that explores classical mythology through today. So through its effects on today. So like book series and movies and company names and just like vocabulary that people use every day. And it's really interesting because he loves the Percy Jackson series and has for years and rereads them all the time. And so that mythology book or that mythology course is taking it to the next level and applying it to the things that he sees around him. And it's been really cool. So that's a rabbit trail we followed just based on a book series. Okay, I'm going to scroll up and see some of the other questions. Carol, like I said, we should definitely talk about the teen thing. So I'm going to earmark that as one of the sooner rather than later topics because it's hard. And I'll try to write some about that in the coming weeks here too for you. So keep an eye on the site. I've been really bad about my newsletter on my site, so apologize for that. I try to send a newsletter out each week, but it's been weeks. So maybe I will, since I'm doing the Motivation Live next week, Carol, maybe I'll tackle that in a newsletter and just write a little bit extra and give you some links. So if you're not subscribed to my newsletter, just go over to my site, raisinglifelonglearners.com. And in the sidebar, you can sign up for the newsletter. And I will be better about that. I'll send a newsletter out each week like I'm supposed to. And I'll make sure that one of them is just its links for resources for parenting gifted teens. Yeah, Christina, the intense kids, nothing's ever enough. So we have that same problem, and it's hard to explain to people who don't get it, right? Um, I was talking to my daughter's occupational therapist one day because she has sensory processing disorder, but I also believe she has overexcitabilities. And some of those things, like going to a laser tag place, which a sensory seeker is like exhausted afterwards, she can go and go and go and go and go and then still stay up when we get home and want a movie and want, books and want to play games and, until she just crashes. It's never, ever, ever enough. It's so hard. Yes. And the whole like attention from mom and dad and, um, playing with the siblings and, you can never, ever do enough. We spent the last weekend at Cedar Point. I'm a little tired this week. Um, but it was the same thing. We closed down the park on Friday and Saturday night. And finally it was like 4 o'clock on Sunday. And I'm like, I have to go. We have to go home. I have an hour drive and I can barely stay awake. But they could have gone until Cedar Point kicked us out at whatever, 8 or 9 o'clock when it closed on Sunday. They could have just kept going. It's definitely a problem. Intensity. Hello, Wendy. Yes, I did it. I did it. So you're concurring. So those of you who are asking about teens, Wendy is she is in our Raising Poppies Facebook group, and I met her on one of the conventions. And she's got this sweet little one right now, but she's got older kids, and they were gifted, or they are gifted. And she was saying that yeah, the teen years were really tough, and that's right where my son is. He's 14, almost 15, and I would say the last year has been really, really rough on both of us. It seems like it's starting to ease a little bit, but there are still moments. Like I see that we're having more moments that are good, and fewer moments of just angst and attitude and venom. But they're still there. So I just encourage you. You're not alone. It seems to be kind of a thing. And so we're working on that, and I'm working to find more stuff about that for you. Yeah, Melissa, good question. Resources and books for parents of intense kids. I have a couple resource pages on my site. There's one that is all about, it's just a resource page for managing intense kids, because in the past I've done a talk on that, and it has it has a list of links to other posts, both on my site and at other people's sites. I never want to say that I know everything about Gifted, because I think that the biggest travesty I could ever pull, and disservice I could ever do to you, is to say that I am an expert in Gifted and have learned everything there is to know about it, because if you've met one gifted kid, you've met one gifted kid, and there's always something to learn. So I never want to stop learning, and I never want to say that the stuff on my site is the only stuff that's going to help and work. So that resource page has lists of posts that I've written about intensity, posts that others have written about intensity, and then a whole bunch of books that I find helpful for parents of intense kids. I mean, I'm a parent of intense kids. I love Smart But Scattered isn't necessarily about intensity as much. This one's more, the Out of Sync Child is good. It's more about sensory processing, but a lot of the intensity stuff in there can work to help you with intense kids. Living with Intensity, great book. Living with Intensity. I'll see if I can drop that link with my affiliate. And then you can have it down there. And then if I think of others off the top of my head, trying to think, if you're homeschooling your kids, Creative Homeschooling by Lisa Rivero is a good one. It doesn't specifically address intensity, but it addresses homeschooling from the perspective of homeschooling with gifted kids and kind of following those interests, which are some of the things that can be pretty intense about gifted kids. Wendy says we're dealing with trying to fit it all in with homeschooling, meltdowns and not being able to see the signs of the meltdowns before they happen. Well, first of all, you're still early on in your journey, so you're going to get better about seeing that before it happens. I would say, like the second you start to see any reluctancy, since she's so young, like pull back and like just shift gears. Like, you want to go play a game. Hey, you know what I was thinking? I'm not really in the mood for this math right now either. Why don't we set it aside, come back to it later when we're fresh? Let's go for a walk. Just trying to get better about seeing those, seeing the signs for meltdowns. It's hard because is every single kid's going to present a little bit differently. So let me think a little bit more on that. But Lemon Lime Adventures, my friend Dana, her site's good for kind of off, like heading off some of the meltdowns. So she has some posts already up there, and then I'll write some more for you too, Wendy. Yeah, so Melissa, if SPD is something that you're dealing with as well as the intensity, Out of Sync Child's a good one. There's another book by that same author called The Out of Sync Child Has Fun, and it's a companion book that is, it's full of like at-home therapies and games and activities and things like that that you can do with your kids to offset some of the sensory needs or the meltdowns or the intensity as it goes. So there's that. I hope that helps. I wish I had more to tell you about the meltdowns, Wendy, but let me think about that some more. Okay, any other questions? This post will be, you're welcome. This post will be, or this video will be in the library, the video library, and then, and I'll drop some more links in there. But what I really, really want you to do, hold on, I'm going to get you that one. Christina, which is the name? Oh, it's called, you know what? I might have it right here. So I'm in my office downstairs. Yep, I do. Okay. Creative Homeschooling, a resource guide for smart families. Okay, I'm not good with this. Lisa Rivero. Okay, one of my favorite books. It's older, although I think this is a newer edition. Let me see. And of course, I'm missing the copyright page. No, it's not super new. So this book was published in 2002. It's good. Lisa Rivero she's a gifted expert. She knows gifted, and she started homeschooling her gifted kids because they needed more. It's really, really, really good. It was the first book I bought when I was thinking about homeschooling, and I didn't set out to homeschool. It's funny, you know how sometimes like you look back and you know that the person like you were 10, 15 years ago would be like scratching their head at the person you are now. I was sure my kids were going to go to school. I was, when I taught gifted, I was convinced that I was able to give gifted kids everything they needed in the school, even though I knew I wasn't able to do everything I wanted to do with them because my hands were tied by, different expectations and benchmarks and stuff. But I did as much as I could, and I really thought that it was great. And then I had my own, and I'm still thinking that it's going to work. But I never thought that I was going to homeschool. Never really thought that I was going to have gifted kids. Never really wanted gifted kids because I enjoyed other people's gifted kids, but they're so intense. I enjoyed also going home and taking a break and drinking my tea and relaxing. So it's really funny how life works out. Here I am now, really a passionate advocate for meeting the needs of your gifted kids where they are, whatever they are, in a school system, fighting to get them their needs met within it. But if you're in a situation where they can't get their needs met, like pulling them out and homeschooling them, because you really can do it. I never thought that that's where I would be, but I love these kids. I love their quirky minds, and there's so many cool things that they're capable of. And it's so fun when you give yourself over to giving them the things that they need. And so it's interesting, how you end up where you are. Yeah, Samantha, this is a really good book for interest-led learning. It's a really, really good book for it. So, and actually it'd be a really good book for you because yours is still young enough that, you can and you're already doing a lot of it, but yours is young enough that you can kind of build your homeschool kind of methodology around some of the strategies in that book. It's one of, like I said, it was the first book I bought when I was like, I think this is what I'm going to have to do. I think I'm going to end up having to homeschool. Like, what do I do now? And it was one of the first ones that I found, and I still refer to it often. In fact, this is the third copy I've bought for myself because I keep loaning it out to people and then telling them to keep it because I want them to have it as a resource. Yes, Melissa. Okay, well, actually, okay, so I do, Melissa. Melissa asks if I know my topics for the homeschool conventions next year. Okay, so I do. I know the topics that I'm sending over to GHC, but I was going to tell you and spill the beans. I can't tell you yet because they haven't been approved yet. So as soon as I have them give me the okay that those are topics they want, I'll let you know. Okay, so until then, but I will be at all 5 GHCs, 2 in March, 1 in April, 1 in June, and 1 in July. So that is, I don't know what order. I don't remember what order, but there's Greenville, there's Fort Worth, Texas, Greenville, South Carolina, Fort Worth, Texas. It's not St. Louis, Missouri. It's near there. It's St. Charles, maybe, Missouri. Cincinnati, Ohio, and then Ontario, California. I will be at all 5. And yes, as soon as I can, I will let you know what the topics are that I've decided to send in to them. And then I have another surprise because there's going to be a 4th thing that I do at the Great Homeschool Conventions with a friend of mine. So I'm super excited about that. That's going to be worth going just for that. So I'm just going to give you a few teasers there. Can't tell you yet. All right. So if you have more ideas, drop them in here. Send me a PM if you don't want anybody to see like what you're struggling with. And I will be here live on my page for at least a half an hour, preferably closer to an hour, because we will talk about a topic. It'll be like Melissa, like getting a mini homeschool convention or a mini parenting convention right here on the Raising Lifelong Learners Facebook page, Mondays at 3 o'clock every single week. So thank you guys for popping in, and feel free to share this video. And then next Monday, just to get the word out, if you are in any groups that have homeschoolers or parents of gifted kids, or anybody thinking about homeschooling, anybody who is struggling with any kind of parenting of their gifted kids, because we're just going to be talking about giftedness and intensity, make sure you share the videos and include them or invite them over to come and join us. So thanks again, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.